We are very, very fortunate to have a fantastic speaker this afternoon, Dr. Syeda Hameed. Let me introduce Dr. Hameed. She is a former member of the Planning Commission of India and former member of the National Commission for Women. She's a feminist and a writer who is widely recognized for her passionate engagement in public affairs and social issues, especially for women, minorities, and peace. She's a founder trustee of the Khwaja Ahmed Abbas Memorial Trust, founder of the Muslim Women's Forum, and a founder trustee of the Women's Initiative of Peace in South Asia. Dr. Hameed has also authored several books, of which the most recent one is a political biography of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto called Born to be Hanged, which just came out in 2018. Some of her other works include Gold Dust of Begum Sultans in 2016, Azad, Islam in the Indian National Movement, that came out in 2013, and Beautiful Country, Stories from Another India, which was published in 2012. Our talk, the topic of our talk is today is the uniqueness of Indian Islam. As we all know, there is no one Islam. South Asia has produced its own Islam, its unique characteristics and features, and we are so fortunate to have somebody like Dr. Syeda Hameed to talk to us about this. So please settle down, everybody, and I would now invite Dr. Hameed to please give us your talk.
Am I audible? On here? Hello, am I audible? Okay. So I must thank Mona for that kind introduction and express my gratitude that Professor Jain is here. He's a very busy man, but he's taken a little time to be with us. And also, it's wonderful to be on this campus. I've never been even to Gandhinagar before, though I have been many, many times to Ahmedabad, but I could not cross that bridge to our Gandhinagar. So this gives me a chance to come here and to have this experience of talking to you, students who have come from wonderful Caltech, which we all know about, and Japan, and the local students from here who are also from many parts of the country. So having said that, my topic is, I think I'm going to stand because I feel very lethargic. And I feel lethargic. I have not been to Agache, but I can understand. I have never had the courage to go to Agache because I know if I go to Agache, that's the end of me for the rest of the day. So having said that, I think I will try to make it a lively session. So I'm sure that at the end of this session, you'll tell me if you were... I keep it with me in my hand. Okay. So at the end of the session, you'll tell me if you were, if you caught the nuance of everything I've said, which is a very tall order. Anyway, it's the uniqueness of Indian Islam, and I thought the best way to start is with myself. Why am I talking? What is my antecedents? So let me explain my antecedents. I come from, I would say back in the 10th century, my ancestor came from Medina to then Iran, now Afghanistan, a place called Herat in Afghanistan. And everybody knows Herat because it's always Kandahar, and Herat is always in the news. And there he came to teach the Sufi lessons and Sufi philosophy. And his name was Khwaja Abdullah Pir-e Herat. Pir-e Herat means the old man of Herat. And today, his mausoleum in Herat is a UNESCO protected site in Herat. So that's where my ancestry is from. And then my ancestor entered India at the time of the Delhi Sultanate, which is about the 13th and 14th century. they entered, and the reign of a sultan whose name was Ghayasuddin Balban, and entered and were given lands in an area which is in Punjab, which is called, now it is Haryana, and it's called Panipat. So they were given land so that they didn't have to worry about where they were going to get their livelihood, but they could engage themselves in teaching. And these were the most fertile lands in the country. So from there we come, and that's where we stayed for 800 years. After that, at the time of partition, when the country was divided into Pakistan and India, 95% of my family were forced to go to Pakistan. Only 5% of my family remained here. And so that's basically where to acquaint you with, my antecedents, otherwise who am I standing here talking to you about the uniqueness of Indian Islam. And Indian Islam is, this was a subject suggested by Mona, and I concurred with it because it is unique in the sense that there is no one Islam. There is that Indian Islam which I, in a sense, embody, which is Sufi Islam, which is eclectic Islam, which is pluralistic Islam, and then there is one Wahhabi Islam. And as we progress in this presentation, more of these aspects of that Islam, I'll talk about it, and then you can note down certain questions. Now, I'm not sure how many of you have read anything about Islam. Can you just raise your hands if you have read Islam or you understand Islam? Anybody? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Okay. So we are, in a sense, that gives me a little bit of an idea of a baseline. So I'm going to start with a slide which, where is it all predicated? It is all predicated in the concept of Allah, God, right? And there are 99 names of Allah. I'm going to show you the first Allah. I'm not going to show you 99 names, I'm just going to show you 3 names. Now this says Allah is the Jalil, and the word here in Arabic is Al-Jalil, and this is a painting by a 90-year-old woman who started it when she was 80 years old, compiling 99 names of Allah and 200 names of the Prophet. She lives in Lahore, and she gave me this beautiful book with the names of Allah and the Prophet, and said, if ever you have a chance, my book would never reach anywhere in the world. So here it is, Al-Jalil, the Majestic. Next. This is the name that everybody who knows anything about Islam knows, and that is Allah, the Most Gracious. Ar-Rahman, the word Rahman is a word that means the gracious. So when the kalma of Islam is Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, I start in the name of Allah, who is the Rahim, who is the Rahman and the Rahim. So this is again painted by her. Her name is Nayyar Ehsan Rashid. She lives in Lahore, and I'm sure somehow she knows that we are talking about her book. So this is Ar-Rahman, the Gracious. Next. Ar-Rahim, the Merciful. And it would be nice if you can just remember some of this very beautiful calligraphy in Arabic, because this is also a very important baseline knowledge to have. And I told you there are 200 names of the Prophet, which again she has calligraphed in motifs of flowers. They're all flowers from your garden, my garden, the garden of this campus. So the next slide. Shaheed. The word Shaheed means witness. And the word Sayyidana means, it's a title. So he is the witness. The one who witnesses is called the Shaheed. Now here you see how she has written it. It's in Arabic calligraphy, but it's in the form of poppy flowers. Next. Habibun. Sayyidana Habibun. Again, these with the idea of leaves, she has written the word Habib. And this is another name for the Prophet. Next. And this is a very important word which we should all remember, and that is the word Hakim. You think of Hakim as a kind of a doctor who practices Unani medicine. But the word Hakim means the wise. So that is another name for the Prophet. And similarly, there are 200 names for the Prophet. So I thought I'll just establish this as where the basis of Islam is. And when I say this, I want to present to you the uniqueness of Indian Islam by actually, there are certain practices, but underneath is the abstract idea beneath the practices. And it applies to Hinduism, to Christianity. I mean, there is, if you abstract the idea of life, of death, of tragedy, everything, if it is abstracted, it will apply to all of your lives. So I want to present Islam to you in that sense. Next. Now this idea of syncretic Islam, I think this is the uniqueness of Indian Islam, is that there is no one uniform Islam. There is Islam in Indonesia, there is Islam in India, there is Islam in Syria, there is Islam in the Central Asian republics. Different kinds of Islam is practiced in different places around the world. In China, where there is so much effort to muzzle Islam, even there is Islam, a certain Chinese Islam. I don't know, in Japan, is there any Islam in Japan? Yes? Muslims in Japan? No? Yes? Few? Okay, so but then that must be one country which is where there are very few, but across the world, everywhere there is different kinds of Islam practiced. In Indonesia, in Myanmar, in countries of Africa, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Sri Lanka, everywhere. So trying to make Islam into a homogeneous, a kind of a monolith, we use the word monolith, is really not the way to go. Because I want to practice Islam my way, you want to practice it your way, you want to practice it your way. And in the Quran, where you started off with Allah, the names of Allah, everyone has a privilege of practicing their own way. So I want to tell you, before I start on syncretic Islam, I want to tell you that there is a tendency to homogenize Islam. If you talk about Islam, then you have to wear a certain dress, you have to behave in a certain way, women have to dress a certain way, and that really muzzles and it actually kills the spirit of Islam. So I will show you what is syncretic Islam. Next. This is a dargah. It is a place of pilgrimage in Delhi, in Nizamuddin. Nizamuddin was Nizamuddin Aulia. Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia was a Sufi saint who had the greatest influence among all the Sufis in this country. Now this is the dargah of Hazrat Nizamuddin in Delhi. Has anyone seen Nizamuddin? No? Okay, so there are 3 of you who have been there, and it is really a place which is buzzing and teeming with life. And the interesting part is that it's not just Muslims who go there. People from all faiths go there. And this thing about tying these threads and all these, to if you have a certain prayer, you tie a thread, you come back when your wish is fulfilled, your prayer is fulfilled. This is not at all a so-called Islamic tradition. It did not exist 1436 years ago when Islam was revealed. But people have adopted it. People do it out of faith. And that is the beauty of Islam. If I want to go and tie a thread in Nizamuddin, this is it's my wish, and God being merciful and compassionate, it's fine. There's no, but Orthodox Islam would condemn this. Please try to understand. So any kind of eclectic, pluralistic kind of Islam has that other lobby which is sort of looking on it with some kind of censure. Now this is a man, again those of you who have been to the Dargah, you know about Hazrat Amir Khusro. He was a Turk, he was a Turkish soldier, he was a Turkish soldier in the royal court, and he became a devotee of Nizamuddin Aulia, and one of his most ardent devotees. It is said that when Nizamuddin died and he was told that Nizamuddin Aulia is dead, he was fighting somewhere with the king's army. He came back to Nizamuddin, he saw his teacher lying dead, and he uttered a very famous couplet, which I'm not going to say because it's in Hindi, but anyway, maybe I'll say it. He said, "Gori soye sej par, mukh par dale khes. Gori soye sej par, mukh par dale khes. Chal khusro ghar aapne, sham bahi chahudes." That my beloved is sleeping, covering his face. Khusro, let's go to God because it's dark all around. And within 6 months, he also died. Now, I should tell you something else. When Sufis die, you don't use the word die. You don't say so-and-so is dead. You say he has attained oneness with God. And the word for it in Farsi, in Persian, is Visal, V-I-S-A-A-L. That is the word. You don't say the Sufi saint is dead. You say he has achieved Visal. So he was, in fact, this is another example of syncretic Islam, the uniqueness of Indian Islam, because Khusro wrote his poetry, his songs, his music in a mixture of languages, in Farsi, in Urdu, in Avdi, in Hindi, Sanskrit words. It was totally pluralistic. And he was a Turk. Mind you, he was from Turkey. So being a Turk and being so well grounded in this, and his songs and his poetry were on everybody's lips. And that's another sign of where people begin to love you. So they remember your words. Also, he invented a number of musical instruments, including the sitar. So he was a multi-talented, but his biggest obsession and his love was his love for Nizamuddin Aulia. Next. Now this is another small place. Professor Jain would know it. It's from his state of Amroha. You know, this is a small place near about 200 kilometers from Delhi, where you see Sikh devotees in a dargah of a saint. These are all Sikh people. Doesn't matter. They are there because they believe. Next. Another slide of the same Sikh devotees of Amroha. I thought this will give the idea that Sufi Islam is not just for Muslims, it's for everyone. It's a universal concept of Islam. Next. Here is something very interesting. मेरा पानी की बोतल ला दें, वहाँ रखी है। वो खुली हुई है, जा खोल दें। Take a look at this. This is a very, very interesting photograph of Burraq. Now, before I tell you what's Burraq, the two inscriptions on the right and left says Ya Kareem and Ya Rahim. Again, word for Allah. And upar it says Buraq. Now Buraq is supposed to be, the Prophet Muhammad, who's the Prophet of Islam, there are not too many miracles associated. He did not believe in miracles. He could not perform. He said, I'm an ordinary human being, I have no miracles. But one record of a miracle, which is a part of the Islamic history, is that the Prophet was summoned by Allah and he went to the seventh heaven to have an audience with Allah. Now you know that prophets always wanted, whether it was Moses wanted to have a glimpse of God, so he went up the Mount Taurus, and when God showed him, when the Jalwa, the image of God appeared, the whole mountain burned down and Prophet Moses fainted. So it's God, the idea of God is nur, light. So nothing can, you can't stand it, it's too much for the human comprehension. So here, this is the horse that took the Prophet up to the seventh heaven where he had his audience with Allah. And there is a whole lore associated with it. But interestingly enough, this horse is painted in the Indian tradition of an Indian goddess. So this horse has a crown, this horse has long hair, this horse has ornament, this horse has this peacock's tail, which is an emblem of Sikhism. So how this whole syncretic tradition, made this into a horse. Now this would also, the Wahhabi Islam would raise heavy objections, very serious objections to this. But again, the God being Rahim and Rahman would say, if this is how you want to pray, if this is what you believe in, it's fine. You believe what you believe and nobody should question that. Next. Buraq is the name of the horse. And the actual, ek minute wapas le aao. The Buraq in Arabic means white, and it was a white horse. So you see the white horse but ornaments. So Buraq is the name of the horse. Next. Monuments. Now I just thought I will, next. I just thought I will show you this Sidi Sayyid Mosque, which, did you have, all of you saw this today when you went to Agashe? Did you go to the Sidi Sayyid? No, but during this trip? Today. You just saw it, but you didn't actually go inside. Now the Sidi Sayyid is also a very interesting story. I'm just showing you this monument because I thought, you are in Gujarat and this is something which is very much in your city. So Sidis were an African tribe which had migrated to India back in the 14th century. And when they came, they were, badly treated. Naturally, they were black Africans, and so they were badly treated, and this is a story, we don't know how much truth there is, but they were thrown into some kind of a cave and imprisoned there in the dark. That is the story. And from their suffering came the Sidi Sayyid shrine or mosque, not shrine, sorry, it's a mosque. And what became very classic in Gujarat is the Sidi Sayyid Jali. And what happened, the story is that because it was dark, so they kept on, making little holes in the stone, so that those holes became like a jali, like a net, like a stone net. And the next slide will give you that emblem. Next. This is the jali which has become, what is it? An emblem of, yeah, exactly. It's a tree of life. It's an icon of Ahmedabad or whole of Gujarat. Ahmedabad in particular, and everybody can have, it's good to have, even I have at home a Sidi Sayyid Jali just for the luck. But this is where the story is that they kept on boring holes in the stone so some of the light could come in, and that's where the Jali originated from. Next. Okay. So I come to another eclectic part of Islam, and that is Muharram. How many of you know the story of Muharram? Okay, Muharram, I think it's very important to talk about Muharram, because as you know, among the Muslims, there are so many different schools of thought, right? There is basically Quran. So we started off with Allah, the Rahman, the Rahim, the Hakim, and then we come on to the Prophet, and after the Prophet, there were the 4 caliphs of the, you know the word caliph, Khalifa. Anyway, now you know. So those were the 4 caliphs who became, who were immediately, because in Islam, Islam doesn't have a pope, Islam doesn't have an archbishop, Islam doesn't have an organized church. So these 4 caliphs were after the Prophet died, and the Prophet also said that when I die, I don't want anyone to start worshipping my memory. So I stood to pray under a particular tree. I will that that tree should be cut off, because I don't want any worshipping to go on around there. So the next person who would lead the Muslims was always by popular election. And the popular election was by the Ummah. Ummah means the congregation, the people. So after these 4 caliphs, the various schools of thought, and one, the most, by far the majority of Muslims are all Sunni Muslims. Do you know, have you heard the word Sunni? Many of you have heard the word Sunni. Saudi Arabia is Sunni, Iran is Shia. That way in India, we have a majority of people practicing Sunni Islam, fewer people practicing Shia Islam, and the whole difference is that the Shias commemorate Muharram. Muharram is a time when the Shias mourn the event called Karbala, K-A-R-B-A-L-A. Karbala was a battle that was fought by the Prophet's grandson, who was Hussein, and we call him Imam Hussein. You have heard Imam Khomeini, but now this is the original Imam Hussein, against people who were taking Islam in the wrong direction, the ruler of the day. So Imam Hussein, with his family and his close friends, a total army of 72 people, fought against thousands and thousands and thousands of army of the ruler of the day, a man called Yazid. And Karbala is where the Prophet and his entire family, children, youth, small children, all the males were assassinated, they were butchered, they were killed. Only one male survived, because the dynasty has to survive, and that was his son, who was very ill, who could hardly walk. So there are many reasons why Muharram is commemorated, and I will tell you that all of us, we suffer the tragedies of life. We have lost a brother, we lose an uncle, we lose our father, we lose people, people die, we have great tragedies in our life, and the greatest tragedy of all times is the tragedy of Muharram. So we commemorate the martyrdom of Imam Hussein and his family, but we also in a way understand our own pain and our own sorrow by a greater sorrow than ours. And that is the tragedy of Karbala and the tragedy of Muharram. And the Shias across the country, India and everywhere in the world, they commemorate it, but a lot of Sunnis come along and a lot of non-Muslims commemorate it too. Nobody, nobody can be indifferent to this kind of a tragedy. So the other aspect of it is, and I'll talk about it later when I talk about gender in Islam, is that after the family of the Prophet was killed, then only the women were left. And it's the women who took the message forward. So the women in Islam then have a very important role to play, unlike what the popular social media image of Islam being very anti-women and anti-gender. it is the women of the family. Had the women not taken up the cause of Islam, Islam would have finished, because all the men had been killed and assassinated and martyred. Imam Hussein and everybody's heads were placed on spears and marched across the kingdom, and only the women were left to take on the rulers of the day. So now I'm going to show you some images from Muharram. Now this is azadari. The word azadari means mourning. Whenever anyone dies in your family, you sit together, you talk, you sit in silence, and this is from a private gathering. I've brought this specially because I thought, you know, you can see monuments, but you'll never see this private gathering anywhere. And here you see these are, in Islam there is no pictorial representation. You don't have pictures of any religious figures. So what you have here is these this is called alam, those silver emblems on top, and then you have these banners. So this was these were the flags of Imam Hussein's army of 72. Everyone carried this flag, and this flag is called the alam. So in Islam, you'll never have any pictures, although sometimes there are aberrations, but most of the time. So this is one scene, and people sit, they chant, they recite, and it's a very, very beautiful time. And it's the time that you think of your own personal losses, because everybody, as I said, has suffered in life. And that suffering, your own suffering, then becomes sublimated in this suffering. Next. I want you to listen to this quietly. This is called a soz. Now, soz is a recitation in verse of this event, and the event is that during this battle of Karbala, Hussein's 6-month-old child, and they were, of course, I forgot to tell you that they were not given water or food for 3 years. They were stopped, water was stopped, and we are talking of the deserts of Arabia. And so he brought his 6-month-old child and saying that, you know, if you are not giving a drop of water to anyone, at least put a few drops in the mouth of this child, he's dying. And his name was Ali Asghar. So this is a little, it's called a soz, and the beauty of it is that it's recited by a Hindu, a man by the name of Jyoti Pandey. So a Jyoti Pandey, a Hindu, name Pandey means he's a high caste Hindu, reciting this, and it is something which is a very beautiful example of syncretic Islam. So just listen to it quietly with your eyes closed. नहीं पीछे जाइए, इसका वो ऑन करिए, वो ऑडियो.
कहती थी बानो असगर जानी, कब तुम घर में आओगे. कहती थी बानो असगर जानी, कब तुम घर में आओगे. दरिया पर से पी कर पानी, कब तुम घर में आओगे. दरिया पर से पी कर पानी, कब तुम घर में आओगे. अपनी दिखाने शक्ल सुहानी, कब तुम घर में आओगे। रन से फिर कर यूसुफ़े सानी, कब तुम घर में आओगे। सोग में तेरे प्यारे मैंने पहनी कफनी काली है। सोग में तेरे प्यारे मैंने पहनी कफनी काली है। भूरे बालों वाले आजा झूला तेरा खाली है। भूरे बालों वाले आजा झूला तेरा खाली है। कहती थी बानो।
Next लगा दो. So another view of the alam, emblem of Imam Hussain. Next, agla laga. Next. Again another view of the Imam Bara and the recitation by one of the women who recites very beautifully, again commemorating this important event. So in terms of these 3 slides that you have seen and the source that you have heard, Jyoti Pandey, you can understand that Muharram is not confined to one religion, it's not confined to one form, but it is a universal. If you see Muharram in Iran, for example, you see a lot of, on the television or on the film, you'd see people beating their breasts and doing a lot of flagellation. It's called self-flagellation. So that is also one way of doing it. This is one way of doing it. But the beauty of Indian Islam is that a man who's a Pandit is reciting the source and people are listening to him with bated breath because it is really so moving and so beautiful. Next. This is the view of the Imam Bara. Next. Now through music and poetry, this is about the 2 more portions and then we can have a discussion. Islam through music and poetry. This is also one, you see, you can't, talking about religion, and around religion is all the other elements of religion. And one of the very important elements of religion is music and poetry. And here again, there is one, the Wahhabi Islam, the kind that is practiced in Saudi Arabia, which they try to impose on the whole world. And they can do it because of their wealth and their petrodollars and all of that, is their kind of Islam. And they also say music is haram in Islam, that is not allowed in Islam. So all of this, these are various myths that you have to get beyond these myths. All that you get on your social media about Islam, you can discount a lot of that because it doesn't, it's really totally something which is manufactured either for propaganda or some kind of evil or people's imagination. Only source of truth is the Quran. Quran is the fountainhead. You go to the Quran and from there everything derives from there. In Islam you have Quran, which is the word. Then you have the Hadith. Hadith is what the Prophet said. Hadith, Hadith. And that is what the Prophet said by people who listened to him and wrote it down, and sometimes didn't write it down but passed it on. So that is secondary. And the third thing is called the Sunnah, which is not to be confused with Sunni Islam. It's Sunnah, Sunnah. And that means the practice of the Prophet, what he used to do. For example, the Prophet used to greatly respect women. When his daughter entered, he always got up. His daughter Fatima is supposed to be the head. the most important woman in Islam. He used to get up and he was a very humble man, so he used to straighten out the cover on the davenport and make her sit down. So these are sunnahs of the Prophet. So there is the Quran, there is the Hadith, and there is the Sunnah, in that order of importance. So music, there's nothing in the Quran which is against music, although people say that in Islam, you know, you're not allowed to play music. So now we will see Islam through music and poetry. Next. Thank you. Now this is, and I should tell you what a naat is. So in Islam, there are three kinds of poetry which are written. One is called the Hamd, H-A-M-D, H-A-M-D, which is in praise of Allah. The other is the Naat, N-A-A-T here, and this Naat is in praise of the Prophet. And then there is something called the Manqabad, M-A-N-Q-A-B-A-D. Manqabad is in praise of the Imam Ali, who is a very special one of the four Khalifas. So there is the Hamd, the Naat, and the Manqabad. Now the beauty of this Naat is that it is in Sanskrit. It's written by a Hindu Sanskrit scholar and sung by a Hindu singer from Banaras Hindu University. Now just listen to it. It's very unusual. Bajaiye.
कोटि कोटि प्रणाम नतमस्तक सकल प्रजाजनम हे दीन बंधु दयानिधि अभिनंदनम सुस्वागतम शाहे उमम आत्मा निर्मल अधर मधु देह कुंदन कंचनम आत्मा निर्मल अधर मधु देह कुंदन कंचनम चंद्रमुख रति नारी मणि मानिक नयन पद पंकजम शाहे उमम स्वर मनोहर शीतलम छपि मोहनी प्रिय दर्शनम स्वर मनोहर शीतलम छवि मोहनी प्रिय दर्शनम दानी परम महावीर अरु करुणा निधि पुरुषोत्तम शाहे उमम जन्म तिथि द्वादश रबीउल अव्वलम शुभ मंगलम जन्म तिथि द्वादश रबीउल अव्वलम शुभ मंगलम प्रतिभा अद्भुत अलौकिक प्रतिमा अति सुंदरम शाहे उमम तीर्थ रूपम स्वर्ग सम्मक्का नगर अति पावनम तीर्थ रूपम स्वर्ग सम्मक्का नगर अति पावनम पुण्य बिंदु सुशोभितम अरु आद ज्योति जन्म स्थलम शाहे उमम नीति सर्जक धर्म रक्षक न्याय वर्धक सत्यम नीति सर्जक धर्म रक्षक न्याय वर्धक सत्यम चक्रवर्ती कर्म योग युग पुरुष अभिनंदनम शाहे उमम शाह.
So this was one, to me, I've also recently come across this, so I find this very fascinating and I wanted to share it with you. The next thing I want to show you is another experience of syncretic and eclectic Islam. All of you have the idea of, going into a trance, and you go into a trance with something called zikr. Now zikr is when you talk about, you can do it in Hinduism, you can do it in Christianity, you can do it in Judaism, you can do it in Buddhism. You chant something, you chant something, and you chant something, and you go into a trance. So this is called zikr. Now the word zikr is a word, it's originally a Persian word. When you talk about something, you say, oh, I was talking about so and so, zikr. I was doing that zikr. But this is zikr with a capital Z. Z-I-K-R, and the zikr is of God. And if you listen to it, it's called a wird, V-I-R-D. Wird is when you keep repeating, and you go into a trance. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to make you listen to the zikr by a very well-known person all over the world, A.R. Rahman, who has done the zikr of Allah. And you just have to listen to it with your eyes closed. Of course, Rahman's picture is here, but it's not a video. Please. You want to use my computer? No, get mine. You can put it. Is that a problem? Otherwise, let's see if we can skip. I wanted them to listen to Rahman, but in case they can't, then we'll have to go to the next one. I hope that won't have the same problem. Yeah, it's on my desktop and on my.
If you write anything on your computer, you need to get Grammarly.
I write pretty much all day.
इसको full screen कर दीजिए, please.
निजात मिलती है उनको यकीनन करे जो कल्ब से जिक्र अल्लाह अल्लाहू 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 अल्लाह। जिक्र से सर कटता है नफ्स का बेशक जिक्र है सैफुल्लाह अल्लाहू 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 अल्लाह। जिक्र अमन है जिक्र है फता जिक्र शिफा है जिक्र है दवा अल्लाहू 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 बाक़ि मिन कुल्ल फ़ानि और फना है सब व बक़ा बिल्लाह हस्बी रब्बी जल्लल्लाह मा फ़ी क़ल्बी ग़ैरुल्लाह नूरे मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाह हक़ ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह अल्लाहू 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 अल्लाह हस्बी रब्बी जल्लल्लाह मा फ़ी क़ल्बी ग़ैरुल्लाह नूरे मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाह।
छोड़ दो बस ठीक है इसको रहने दो अगला लगा दो मैं उसके बारे में बैकग्राउंड बता देती हूँ आप अगला लगा दो उसी पे इस पे नहीं आएगा उस पे लगा दीजिए YouTube पे लगा दीजिए। I'm sorry it's interrupted the continuity oops oh this one ये पहला वाला हाँ इसको आप होल्ड करके रखिए so I'm going to now play the other visual for you and again this is the contemporary now the now in Islam is now converted into this Coke studio is also very interesting that it should be a Coke studio which is now singing a hamd about Allah and the Prophet and the title is Aqa and there's a young man there with Abida Parveen and his name is Ali Sethi. So now in Pakistan this is being produced and so you can see the whole contemporary angle to this Islam, the syncretic Islam, which is again a South Asian idea that I wanted to share with you. Kariye.
Coke Studio Season 9.
सनाई मन मिदानम ऐ नूरे कल्बी ऐ नूरे रूहम काबा है दिल हा किबला है दिल हा इश्क़ हकीकी खालिक आलम चकरवा जब नहीं हो साथ कोई बस तेरा है आसरा चाहे कहीं जो गहरा अंधेरा तेरी अदा से आए सवेरा तेरी ही खलकत चांद तारे तूने ही बख्शी ये रोशनी है ये सब तुम्हारा करम है आका ये सब तुम्हारा करम है आका के बात अब तक बनी हुई है ये सब तुम्हारा करम है आका के बात अब तक बनी हुई है
So now as we draw to an end of this hour and we're a little bit over time, audio नहीं है अब सिर्फ visual है. I want to just show you 3 slides and let me explain you know the whole I talked about just very briefly about the role of women in Islam in the context of Karbala and in the context of these women who led the entire campaign to denounce the people who had martyred Hussein, the ruler of the day. Mind you, they were all Muslims, there were no non-Muslims there, Muslims killing each other. So denounced them and brought, and if not for the role of women, Islam would have been wiped out. So that is the historical role of the women, and these women happen to be the women of the Prophet's family. That is his 2 granddaughters, Hazrat Zainab and Hazrat Kulsum. When we say Hazrat, it's a way of showing respect. So it's Hazrat Ali, Hazrat Muhammad, Hazrat Zainab, Hazrat Fatma, Hazrat Kulsum. That's just a way of showing respect. So in Islam, there are 5 greats of Islam. There is the Prophet, his daughter Fatma, Ali, Hussein and Hassan. So in anything in Islam, it says the Hamza. The Hamza is the Panja. So in top of the Alam also you saw there was an emblem of 5. So these are the 5 great entities of Islam in which the woman is very, very tall, Fatima. So the whole myth about women, and every day you read about triple talaq, polygamy, multiple marriages, Islam being so anti-gender, so anti-gender. So one session we should have just on women and Islam. And for that we need a little bit more time than the kind of limitation that we have. So my organization is called Muslim Women Forum, which was started in the year 2000. So we are now 18 years old. And the idea is to give women a platform to express what in fact their voices in development of women, in the status of women, in the place of women. So we do several things in Muslim Women Forum, and this is the liberal and to me the right spirit of Islam, which is what the Quran says about women. The Quran does not say anything about this instant triple talaq, which is a big, big issue these days. The Islam, initially when 40 marriages or 400 marriages, any number of marriages in pre-Islamic days, in one stroke Islam brought it down to 4. And the idea was that from 4 it would only be 1. But that's where all the forward-looking Islam stopped. So today they talk in terms of 4 marriages. But the word in the Quran is that you can only marry 4 times if you treat everyone individually, equally, with equal respect, regard, wealth, everything. And the next sentence is that since you are not able to do that, you're best that you only marry once. Now nobody ever quotes that from the Quran, only people who read the Quran, who bother to read the Quran. The rest only hear and social media and all of that. So anyway, this is by background, but we'll talk about it some other time. So I did one, Muslim Women Forum arranged one exhibition, and this is the last thing I'll say, in which we showcased 21 Muslim women who post-partition took off their hijab, their burqa, their parda, this is 1947, and jumped into the construction and the building of a new India with Gandhi, with Nehru, with Maulana Azad. And these were to us iconic women. They became members of parliament, they became members of constituent assembly, they became writers, they built hospitals, they were from all over the country. So we showcased 21 such women. And this exhibition has gone in some parts of the country. So I'll just show you 3 or 4 slides, and that's where we'll end. This is a woman, Syeda Hameed. Again, you see her dates, 1919 to 1978, and it was Nehru and Gandhi who told her and her husband to design the Indian flag. So the design of the Indian flag was done by a woman called Syeda Hameed, and that is, nobody knows it, nobody talks about it, but I think as students of eclectic and syncretic Islam and gender, you should know about it. Next. And this is my last slide. This is a woman, Qudsiya Izaz Rasool from UP, Director Sahab State, and she in fact was a remarkable woman because she became the chair, not only a member of parliament, first an MLA, then a member of parliament, and ultimately she also became the head of the Hockey Federation. So here was another woman who was, very prominent and very one of the most prominent women of that time. Her dates are 1908, and she lived a long life to 2001. So that's really the end of my slides and the end of my talk. I've gone over time, but the subject of syncretic Islam is very close to my heart, and so I thought that if I give you a little idea, then maybe I have been able to excite your imagination, and hopefully you'll go and explore more of it. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you everyone.